I feel like every long-running Japanese role-playing series is destined to go through a metamorphosis of sorts, turning from tried-and-true mechanics for new, bolder pastures. Recent Final Fantasies have eschewed turn-based combat for open-world action, and last year's JRPG darling Metaphor ReFantazio skipped the high school setting of its forebears for a fantastical one. It's now the Atelier series' turn. Known for lighthearted stories starring magical girls called Alchemists, Atelier has gained a sizable following of devoted fans but is yet to reach mainstream success, though the previous trilogy, Atelier Ryza, was a huge step in the right direction. With Atelier Yumia, the Alchemist of Memories and the Envisioned Land, developer Gust has set ambitious goals with a massive, puzzle-filled open world and plentiful mechanics pulled from the survival game genre. If a massive open world filled with puzzles sounds a bit like The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild to you, well, yeah, there's definitely a lot of inspiration from Hyrule here. There's even a Master Cycle Zero, except worse. You can't really climb up even the smallest obstacles with it. Anyway, this review is adapted from the one I wrote for GamerGuides.com. I tend to get a bit more rambly in video form, so if you want to read my more professional, curated take, you should definitely head on over to that wonderful website. All footage was taken on my mid-range PC with a 3060 Ti and a Ryzen 7 5700X at medium-high settings. You may notice the footage looks a bit different here and there, as I spent quite a long time trying to get a consistent frame rate at 1440p. It definitely feels like a game developed for consoles and ported to PC. Overall, however, the performance wasn't that bad. So Atelier Yumia introduces a new setting and a new protagonist. Much like the other games, you take control of a magical alchemist girl named Yumia, capable of manipulating mana, the remnants of memories and souls, to create objects like weapons, magical items, and even chairs. Yumia is a sincere young woman racked with self-doubt about whether following in her alchemist mother's footsteps was the right choice or not. Alchemy, you see, was responsible for the fall of the Aldician Empire centuries ago, and more recently the cause of a major explosion that resulted in many tragic deaths. Almost everyone distrusts alchemists, and when they learn Yumia is one, they treat her with superstition and fear. Regardless, Yumia is hired by a research team to help them uncover the mysteries of the fallen Aldician Empire, sending you off on an adventure through monster-filled wildernesses to unlock the truths of alchemy. This guy Victor and his sister Isla are assigned to keep Yumia under watch, but it isn't long before they, and another 3 colorful characters that join your party, fight alongside her to disprove the stigma surrounding alchemists and prevent further disasters from ne'er-do-wells. The plot itself is as one-dimensional as the handful of evil, bestial antagonists it throws at you. I mean, I won't spoil anything in this review, but the game introduces this dragon dude fairly early on, but you don't see him again until like 20 hours later. Furthermore, the final boss you see briefly in the opening tutorial, and then he's only mentioned in passing by his underlings otherwise. It's all a bit anticlimactic when you do confront them. In true JRPG fashion, Atelier Yumia also spends a bit too long sending you on wild goose chases before advancing the plot. Go here and activate this tower, sit through a ton of dialogue, and then go over here to activate that tower for a bunch more dialogue. That kind of thing. Thankfully, Atelier Yumia centers the plot around the 6 heroes and their backstories. They're a likable bunch with tragic backgrounds and intriguing personal stories to see through. As such, each one of them grew on me. I disliked this guy with his weird pointy teeth when he first joined the gang, but a dozen hours later, both his shady antics and solemn backstory endeared me to him. Same went for the overly timid puppy girl Lenja. Annoying at first, but I soon found myself proud of how far she'd come as we ventured deeper into dangerous lands. Don't get me wrong, they're all still firmly stuck within anime tropes and talk far too much, but that's to be expected with the lighthearted nature of the Atelier series. A comfortably colorful cast set within a thin narrative is what Atelier Yumia offers, and for many, including myself, that's more than enough for this type of JRPG. That said, fan service surrounding the 4 female party members is something else. I understand recent Atelier games have this kind of element to it, yet when every cutscene featuring the mercenary Nina frames her ridiculous bust, or when the camera pans to give near upskirt shots of Yumia as she crawls through dilapidated ruins, I couldn't help but feel that it was a bit too much and diluted the strength of their character arcs. So your adventures with this cast will take you through 4 distinct zones filled with an abundance of monsters, an insane amount of resources to collect, plentiful puzzles, plots of land to build bases on, and ruins that unlock hundreds of question marks on your map when Yumia clears the overflowing mana within by doing a magical girl dance. From the green cliffs of the Ligneous region to the pastel pinks and blues of the Sleva region and beyond, I enjoyed whipping out the photo mode to take some environmental shots of a once great civilization returned to nature. Here's a little sizzle reel. Here you can see that Atelier Yumia floods the screen with resource icons that muddle the atmosphere somewhat. As such, I wish there was a dynamic HUD to hide UI elements until I wanted to see them. The content packed into these environments may sound familiar to you. Collecting resources brings to mind popular survival games like Rust and Palworld. The abundance of puzzles spread throughout look like they were pulled straight from The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and its sequel, and revealing the map by visiting specific locations is a tired staple from countless open-world games. Unfortunately, it all feels derivative and undercooked. There's such a glut of resources used for the synthesize mechanic, more on that later, that seeking out specific materials never felt like a necessity. At the same time, puzzles that award skill points were all rudimentary and repetitive. They boil down to 3 types: simple circuit puzzles, a circular matching game, and some hide and seek with switches hidden around rooms that you have to shoot, and that's all Atelier Yumia has to offer. None of them have even an ounce of creativity to give you even a minuscule shot of dopamine for solving them. Likewise, the base building mechanic falls short. More patient and creative Atelier players than I will surely be able to make sprawling works of art for Yumia and her pals to hang out in. But there's little utility to these bases outside of a place to craft and store items. This isn't the kind of game where you have to defend against encroaching monsters or frequently return to stock up supplies, as a convenient fast travel system makes building more than one base pointless. Some areas have highly concentrated mana that drains your energy slowly, but there's so many ways to restore it that setting up bases to venture further never made a lot of sense. You can craft gauntlets to access zip lines and use bandages to heal, but again, there's so many fast travel points it made little sense to engage with the building mechanic. As a result, it all feels tacked on, like Gust wanted to make sure Atelier Yumia made it into the popular base building category on Steam. Worse still, many of the rewards for side quests and exploration tie back into the base building. I was pretty let down when I received a recipe for a set of chairs after completing the entire exploration checklist for the first region. All told, the mechanics tied to the open world, the puzzles, resource gathering, base building, feel like proof of concept for an inevitable sequel. And in the end, they're fodder to sift through while you listen to a podcast or watch YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, if you enjoyed this review so far, consider shooting me a like. Would greatly appreciate any and all support for growing my small channel. Thanks! So tying all these undercooked mechanics together is a crafting system unique to the Atelier series called Synthesis. Yumia, you see, can create just about anything you can imagine by doing her magical girl dance at an alchemist's altar. This includes armor, weapons, magical spells, quest items, furniture, and so on. The whole process threatened to put me to sleep after the first dozen hours as it requires far too many tedious steps. To craft, for example, a healing item to use in battle, you first have to find the recipe while out exploring. Then you must gather the correct materials to craft it, and if you want to upgrade said item first, you'll want to find mana spots spread throughout the open world to collect the particles required to do so. After all that, you head on over to an altar and select a handful of different bonuses before filling up 3 different cores that have a minimum of 3 slots in each with resources that imbue different skills and increase the quality of the item. You finally synthesize and have to hop into another menu to equip the item. There's strangely no auto-equip here. The mere thought of crafting weapons, magical sub-weapons, armor, and accessories for each of the 6 heroes exhausted me. Throw in gem slots to manage, and this progression system quickly became a chore to drudge through every time battles got a little too tough. Thankfully, there's an auto-synthesize option that does the thinking for you. Those with patience can absolutely break the combat even on the highest difficulty by seeking out the best ingredients to craft the most powerful items, yet I managed to take down the final boss on the normal difficulty without too much trouble. Still, I would have enjoyed a more satisfying progression system rather than one I wanted to ignore. Fortunately, Atelier Yumia does set itself apart with a fresh take on action-based combat. 3 of your 6 characters, which you can swap between at will and have pretty capable AI, encircle the monsters you're up against, strafing left, right, and between a front and back circle to avoid AoE attacks. When controlling Yumia in the front circle, for example, she has 4 different attacks to pummel foes with her gun staff and high-flying, rocket-powered high heel kicks. In the back row, her gun staff lets off volleys of bullets from a safe distance. If you, with any character, manage to stun a foe and switch to a magical attack to hit their weakness, you trigger a team-up attack. Furthermore, perfect dodges allow you to swap into other characters for powerful follow-up attacks. The battle system plays out almost like a rhythm game without the music. You'll swap between characters, hit weaknesses, and strafe away from AoE attacks to an unheard beat. Despite some balance issues, the beginning region is ridiculously easy and boss fights spike in difficulty. performing friend actions and precision counters against grim beavers and alchemy-warped foes bent on restoring the Atelier Empire to glory kept me entertained through till the end, which took me about 30 hours to complete. Atelier Yumia, the Alchemist of Memories and the Envisioned land, manages to stand on its own two rocket-powered high heels through the strength of its comfortable cast and this flashy, fun combat. I still wish the open-world puzzles, resource gathering, and base building weren't so shallow and derivative of other games like Breath of the Wild, even if Atelier Yumia doesn't penalize you too much for not engaging with them. As a result, this isn't the major shift towards the mainstream that the series needed. Rather, it feels a bit like a proof of concept for future sequels. But if your expectations aren't too high, you'll have a great time exploring Atelier with Yumia and her friends. Hey, thanks for watching. If you don't know what I'm all about, my name's Lowell and I'm a freelance game critic and guide writer, turning my written reviews and opinion pieces for the various websites I write for into YouTube videos. As such, any and all support in the forms of likes and subscribes and even hate comments is greatly appreciated. Thanks, bye.